I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I love that I get to introduce you to fabulous women. Not only women that are way showers and change makers on the planet, but they're women that inspire me to be better. And so every week you get to come back and meet another woman. We're on all the platforms: Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon, YouTube video. Just look for Women Awakening with Cynthia James and come, because I feel like this is the time for women emerging. This is the time the planet needs our energy, our nurturing, our brilliance, our kindness. And so know that the women I introduce you to are not exceptions, they're examples. And so I really want you to learn from them, grow from them, use their products and their ways of being to support you in becoming the best that you can be. Today, I have a fabulous person who I met probably a little over a year ago, and her name is Donna Orender. And this is what it says in her bio, that she's recognized as a leader of growth and innovation in several high-profile companies, and her ability to pivot as a former professional basketball athlete has served her well. So in 2011, Donna launched Generation W. It's a dynamic platform of education and inspiration, connection for women and girls, and it's in service to building community. It has changed the trajectory of thousands of lives who've become part of this inclusive and energetic community. Oh, and by the way, she served 6 years as the president of WNBA, during which she solidified its base. Oh, yeah, and led double-digit growth in all key business areas. I met her when I was in New York doing my book tour, and then I got to speak on her incredible stage. Donna, welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
I am thrilled, of course, to be with you, Cynthia, as a gift.
Well, I want to start by asking how you grew up and where you came from. People tend to think that successful people just sort of drop into it and it's all easy. And how did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a little suburban neighborhood on Long Island, just over the Queen City border. But there, it had a more suburban feel than an urban feel. I was the oldest of 3 daughters. My mom was a homemaker. My dad was in sales of some sort. I know he traveled a lot and wasn't around a lot, but when he was around, I always loved talking sports with him, because when he talked sports, he was animated and he was engaged, and I knew that was a way I could get his attention. And I think that's probably the genesis of my love of sports, not only in engaging conversation with my dad, but then ultimately in playing so many of them.
And so when you went to school, were you an athlete?
I was. Now, sports in schools when I grew up isn't anything like they are now. We didn't have sports in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. Really, we weren't. But really, when you got to high school is when you really played. And when I was in high school, I played 7 sports.
Wow. Plus school.
Plus school. And I went to dance for 8 years. Yes, no one would call me Grace. Trust me. But I wonder if I didn't have dance lessons, what I would have looked
like. But my question is, did you sleep?
Yeah, enough. I think, honestly, I always had this kind of very inquisitive and acquisitive philosophy of life. I wanted to learn more and do more. And honestly, even all these years later, if I can connect those dots still.
Right. Well, and I think is why I feel like I'm part of your tribe, because we have a similar way of operating. But I want to know about you playing basketball. Where?
Well, actually, basketball, I played tennis first. That was going to be my first serious sport. And I was recognized by top coaches and invited to join an academy. But I found ultimately, and I also played I was the first girl to play on a boys' team I don't know if it was in the state of New York, but whatever. And I played on the boys tennis team, but I found it to be lonely. And I really liked team sports, and I was loving basketball. And I went to summer camp, and all the boys played basketball, and they got these cool t-shirts. And I'm like, I want a t-shirt. I like them. I remember the color I like best. And so the male counselors would come down and teach me. And I loved the game. And I played in high school, and I played in AAU, and I played up in Harlem in the Rucker League. I played for one of the best teams in the nation collegiately. We made history as being the first women's team to ever play at Madison Square Garden. I ended up playing the first women's professional league. And ultimately, as you know, 25 years later, ended up being the president, they call it commissioner today, of the WNBA. Could never have drawn all those lines, could never have seen any of that. But wow, I am so appreciative. I'm so filled with gratitude for each step of that journey.
Well, you know what's interesting about what you're saying is I really believe that the most successful people are curious, that and are adventurous. They want to know things. They want to do things. And so that exemplifies you. So my question is, okay, how'd you get to be president of the WNBA? I mean, was it a stepping stone? What was it?
How did I get there? Well, because I played professional sports, I made a lot of relationships. I had a lot of friends in the media. So I did a lot of interviews, both for print and on air. I ended up doing some on-air sports work. And then ultimately, when the league folded, I ended up working for ABC Sports, which was the leader in sports. And so I began this media production background. I started to develop the skills in producing sports, right? Writing, all of those kinds of things. And that led to the next step and the next step and the next step. And ultimately, I ended up at the PGA Tour. And for them, I ran their production company. I built the business. You know, in
Wow.
between, I had my own company too. So I did develop business building skills at a young age. And when I got to the tour, building a business felt like something I could do, and I did. And ultimately, you know, raised to the level of being in the office of the commissioner, building our global television production, programming, digital, and brand businesses. And but I always loved basketball, always loved basketball. And there was an opening at some point, and when I had my own company, I had relationships with the NBA. Adam Silver was a great friend then, great friend now, David Stern. And so when the opening came, I was fortunate enough to get the call.
So there's something that you just spoke about, but it's something I've noticed about you.
Uh-oh.
You are a relationship builder, connector, and mm, hold the container to stay connected to those people for, I'm going to call it lifetimes. So, was that something you learned, or was that who you are?
I think it's who I am, but I also have to say I think it's who my mom is too. My mom is very relationally focused. I grew up with a mom who was always bringing people into our home, who really was generous with her heart and still is with people. It didn't matter who they were or where they came from. She never met a stranger. And I think, you know, we see that at a young age. And I still see that at this age. But I also feel that strongly you treat people in a way that you want to be treated, in a sense. And so I'm always sensitized to the fact that whether I work with you now or not, that we have a relationship that will transcend, because that is the essence of what makes humanity strong.
That is so beautiful. So, where did the thought of Gen W come from?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Um, I've been to a lot of conferences. I would spoke all over the country and some internationally. And I noticed in my travels, and this was like early on, right? When women were just starting to get together and having little groups here and there. There was one, the women at NBC, and I was invited, and I looked up and I saw all these women so gleeful at meeting each other. And they were in all different industries. And I took note of that. And then there was someplace else that I saw the same thing happening. And I said, you know, when I left the WNBA, I knew that women and girls were in my heart. It was something I always wanted to stay connected to, wanted to be a participant, fully engaged and expanding those opportunities as I could. And so when I got to Jacksonville, I said, you know what, I'm back home. This is the South. It's not known for being very progressive in its thinking. There are women everywhere I saw who are looking to be invited. And so let's create a unexpected thought leadership event in a place that's unexpected for it. Focus on women, look to talk about opportunity and raise voices. And let's do it here. Let's do it right here, because I'm going to be here now. And I believe in excellence. Excellence has kind of guided my career. If you're an elite athlete, you have to believe in excellence or you can't perform. And so that's how it all started. I had created the brand in my head earlier. I had not in any way used it. So I said, Generation W is it. We're going to educate, we're going to inspire, and we're going to connect. And we're going to do it in the service of building communities so that by all of this energy, right, all of this value that we will unleash will be put to the use of building the places where we live and work. And that's how it started.
Well, okay, so that's been 12 years.
Actually, this will be our 13th.
Really? Well,
April 5th will be our 13th. How about that? A bar mitzvah year, a b'nai mitzvah year.
so ladies, I want you to know that, I've put on conferences, I've been to a lot of conferences, I've spoken at a lot of conferences, but this is the top of the game. This is a place.
Nice.
Well, it is. It's like extraordinary speakers, participation, vendors. It was at this university. So I guess I want to say the vision was building communities and supporting women and connecting women. But how did you move from the vision to this extraordinary event that's really first class?
Well, I appreciate all of the accolades. They're most welcome, and please continue to say that. My background's in production, right? I built a global production company, and I'm a producer, I'm a director, I'm a writer. And I took all the places I've been. I was at the Fortune Most Powerful Women's Conference. I was at, I don't know, name them. And each one of them I enjoyed, but I wanted to take an element of them and then make something where people felt seen and heard and appreciated and comfortable. And I wanted to involve the whole person. So it just wasn't a business place, because how do you do business if you're worried about your personal life, right? Or if you don't feel fulfilled in something else. And I believe in the arts, and I believe in music, and I know that you do too. And all of those things that fill our senses, infuse us, right? With the ability to show up better, I guess, in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, so just created this idea of taking the best that I thought. And I got to be my own, not only producer and director, my own EP as well. And ultimately, the community would decide whether the decisions that we ultimately made were decisions that work for them. And as you can see, that has happened enthusiastically, I think.
Well, yes, women from all over have come. So I want to talk about WOW, because WOW was birthed out of Gen W. So what is WOW?
Well, our second year of doing Generation W, I think we had almost 1,000, mostly women in the theater. And I invited 7 girls, incredibly diverse, from a girl out of foster care, a girl who experienced the earthquake at that point in Haiti, an upper middle class girl from the West Coast. And we worked with them for a couple of weeks. And it was simple. They were on the stage and we said, who are you? What's important to you? And how do we help you? And that conversation from these 7 extraordinary young girls, our first WOW girls, really moved people. And I felt it. And I said to Kasha, who was working with me at the time and still is, we've got to do something around girls. We're all still girls in our hearts, right? Whether you like to reflect on your 3rd grade self, I'm not sure which age girl are you?
6-year-old.
There you go. But right, it never leaves us.
Right.
And so I said, let's create a leadership mentorship experience. We'll build it off model of Gen W, smaller. We'll engage women because women kept saying, how do I get involved? How do I get involved? Well, let's play it forward and do a mentor walk with girls. And so within 10 months, we had put together Generation Wow, but based in the ethos of the positive and the possible. And if I can, Cynthia, I'll tell you very proudly that last year we celebrated our 10th year in Jacksonville. But in the last month, in October, we hosted Generation Wow in Orlando, Florida. We had 600 girls and 150 mentors, I think. And then 3.5 weeks later, we did the same thing in Jacksonville with almost 400 girls and 125 mentors. And we have in-school programs in both communities. And we now have this grant called Multiply the Wow, as our board feels the work is just too important to not help it expand across the country.
Well, I'll tell you, it's exciting to hear you talk about it, but it was as exciting to be in the experience of them and what you've done. You know, I really want to ask you about, because you're a production person and you're a producer and director and a writer, but you also garnered an enormous amount of sponsors. Was that because of all these relationships you built?
Yeah, well, I worked in men's professional golf and we sold. I wasn't on the selling team per se, but I was on the selling team for our production entertainment company. So I did that. You know what I mean? We negotiated big contracts and figured out how all the deals we would get sponsorship. And I built our digital business, and I did that by bringing in sponsors. I think we were the only league that was able to launch at a no cost basis, meaning that I was able to cover all of our technology development and production costs with our sponsorship packages that we were able to create and sell. And so, yes, relationships, of course, but also delivering value and understanding what companies want. We're their partner. How do we get them right to the place where they need to be with the work that we do?
Yeah, so ladies, if you want to do an event, if that's something in your heart, listen to what she said. What value are you giving so that the partnership works both ways? So, Donna, you got all this going on, and you're married, and you have children.
I do.
And how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I do. What can I just say? I do. And I think along the way, I mean, I talked earlier about how I'm really about excellence. And as women, there's something in the culture that surrounds us, that sets expectations of us, that somehow communicates we need to be perfect. I've let go of that a long time ago. It's not about being perfect. And, I've worked in a lot of male organizations, and they're not so focused on being perfect. They're focused on getting it done. And I just feel like I do what I can do. I probably do more than I can do because there's always more in us.
Yes.
And then I have to come to peace with the pieces that aren't done, understanding where my priorities need to be, because there are places you can't let down, right?
Yes.
And that's what I do. And I come to peace with it some of the time.
Well, yes, but I was there. Your husband's so engaged in what you're doing and so supportive.
Yes.
You
I couldn't do
know,
it without him.
I met your son, who's quite a spectacular entrepreneur himself, and so when you were talking about relational and that what you learned from your mother, that it feels like as much as you poured energy into your passion, you've poured energy and love into your family.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a
Yeah.
doubt. Although, and it's funny because my boys are grown now, and so it's nice to talk with them and get some of their feedback, and some of the things I thought I was doing really well. They're like, "What, really, Mom? Then you were going to read to us and you'd fall asleep." And I'm like, wow, I don't remember that, but they did. So
Right.
it's always good to get different touch points, but I will say that they are my world, and I do what I do around them, for them, with them as much as I can because of them, but also remembering that they have their lives and I still have mine. And so we
Yes.
operate independently, but we're very intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's evident being in the presence. It's evident. So I want to know what's next for you?
Ha! What's next? So we have Generation W coming up this year. Our theme is believe, right up your alley, Cynthia. Believe. And I wrote this little piece about it, which is to find confidence, truth, establish trust is at the core of belief.
Yeah.
Only if we believe in something can we act purposefully. What are the stories that we believe about ourselves, about each other, about our world, and the tenets of our lives? Courage and conviction, principles and possibility, ethos and faith. The narratives of our world and our lives create what we believe. And
That's
with
right.
that, we're inviting everyone to join us either virtually or in person in the amazing Lazaro Theater at the University of North Florida on April 5th for Generation W. As you know, we find extraordinary people like yourself to share their stories in a way that really connects with our people, with our audience. And I think you'll attest to the fact that people come, and from the moment they come, there's a spirit of connectivity, and no one's looking over their shoulder to find out who's the next person I have to talk to, but they feel
Yes.
comfortable in the presence of themselves and those around them. And that's why I love it so much, honestly.
Well, yeah. And so how do people find you and get connected?
You can always find us at Gen W Now, GENWnow.com.
Yeah. And so, ladies, what I want to say to you is if you're looking for a community, if you want to connect to other women, if you want to see what's happening in the world for women, this is the place for you to go. Because just as Donna is passionate about this, everybody on her team, every volunteer, every, I mean, you're just swept up in the energy.
Swept up
So,
in the energy. I like that. I'm going to use that. Come get swept up in the energy.
yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So, this show is called Women Awakening. And I want to ask you, I mean, it's the same last question I ask everybody, but
Okay.
why do you think women awakening on the planet at this moment is essential?
It's funny. I say to the girls, or wow girls, I'll say to them, who of you do you think you can change the world? And like some of them raise their hand. I said, we not only want you to change the world, we need you to change the world. And we need an energy that women do give, right? And I'm not saying that men don't have this, but the world is better when we have the diversity, not only of energy, but of intelligence, of smart, oh, what's the word I want? Intelligence, of empathy, of all of these different leadership styles, of experiences. And you would think I would have a canned answer on this with all the work I do with women every day. But I do think that what women bring to the world is a necessary ingredient for us to find the best of all of us. I really believe.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and you exemplify it, and every single part of your team exemplifies it. And
Oh,
it's
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It's really wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful that you've been here and that you do the work that you do in the world. Thank you so much.
And you as well. Thank you for being part of my spirit and my heart. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, ladies, I'm going to say the same thing to you I say every week in a different form. What if your energy, your brilliance, your power, your light, your gifts was essential for the transformation of humanity to support this planet and the generations to come? What if you knew that? Wouldn't it be powerful because then there would be something in you that would not allow anything to stand in the way of your achieving your goals, your dreams, your desires. Listen, I want you to know you're needed. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful that you're here and that we walk this path together. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.